Harold went home very worried, and as Maren came to greet him at the door, she tilted her head thoughtfully, as if she could read his state of mind. He ate little even though his wife Claire had made his favorite pasta dish. Maren was constantly on his mind, so he shared what bothered him with Claire, who had also been Mallory's best friend. By the time he ended his description of the visit to the ranch, Claire had tears in her eyes and her voice trembled with indignation when she exclaimed, "Harry, we can't let them have Maren." He knew she was right, but he truly didn't know what to do. He decided to check them out thoroughly. Finally, Harold couldn't wait any longer and he called the family, asking them to come to his office at 3 o'clock that afternoon. Just to test them, he mentioned casually that Maren would also attend the reading of Mallory's will. None of them made any comment. He brought little Maren to his law firm with her favorite red satin pillow. After letting her spend some time with his secretary, he carried her into his office and placed her comfortably in a leather chair near him, but also in full view of anyone who came into his office. They showed up right on time. None of them paid the slightest attention to Maren, who examined them carefully with those expressive green eyes of hers. Harold greeted them warmly. They were very polite to him. No apologies were offered for the unpleasant messages left during the last couple of days. Harold didn't mention the matter. They all sat across from Harold's desk, Warren to the left, Sage in the middle and Dylan to the right. None of them looked at Maren, not even to give her a passing glance. Harold made a mental note of that. He remembered Claire's anxiety for Maren and his heart ached. What could he do to protect that trusting, beautiful kitty who, for all intents and purposes, was also a really lucrative ATM? The moment of truth had come. Harold pushed down the knot on his throat and started to read the will. There they were, Warren checking his watch almost every 5 seconds, Sage's fingers drumming on her purse, and Dylan sitting quietly, eyes fixed on his phone screen with studied indifference. The tension in the room was thick and almost palpable. He glanced at Maren. He seemed to be the only one interested in her, and she lay quietly on her red satin pillow, yet her eyes had an intense glow he had never seen before. Was she trying to process what was happening and what it meant for her? Harold Parker cleared his throat and all were forced to look at him. He lifted the document. The paper crinkled in the silence. "Let's begin," he said in a professional tone. He opened a leather folder and extracted Mallory's will, placing it on his desk on top of the folder. For a moment, they all looked at the crisp white paper, wondering what surprises it hid. Harold started reading. "I, Mallory Jean Lloyd, being of sound mind. I bequeath my ranch in Williams, Arizona, all of my bank accounts, all of my investments, all of my resources, amounting to approximately $50 million. Sage sat up straighter. Warren stopped fidgeting. Even Dylan looked up from his phone. "To my cat, Maren." The words hung in the air like a punch that hadn't quite landed yet. "What?" Sage's voice came out strangled. "She helped me build my fortune," Harold continued, his voice steady, "and she deserves every penny she worked for." "This is insane." Warren started to rise from his chair. Harold lifted one hand, and something in the gesture, firm, final, made Warren sink back down. The lawyer's voice cut through the rising protest. "I leave nothing to my daughter Sage, who was so bitter toward me I often thought she hated me." Sage's face went white, then red. Her mouth opened and closed, soundless. "I leave nothing to my brother Warren, who was always too busy to take my calls, even when I was sick or struggling with money." "That's not I, Warren sputtered, but Harold kept reading. "And nothing to my grandson, a young man I never met and who, knowing of my existence, never cared to contact me at all." Dylan's jaw tightened. For the first time, something flickered across his face, shame, perhaps, or anger. Hard to tell. The room erupted. Sage launched from her chair, voice shrill. She can't do this. She was clearly not in her right mind. "I want to speak to another lawyer," Warren bellowed over her. "This is absurd," Dylan muttered, shaking his head, though no one heard him. Harold Parker brought his palm down on the desk, not quite a slam, but close enough. The sound cracked through the chaos like a judge's gavel. Silence fell, brittle and sharp. "There is more," Harold said calmly. 3 pairs of eyes locked toward him. Maren's eyes never left them. Her green eyes moved slowly from face to face, unblinking, assessing. There was something unsettling about that gaze, an intelligence that seemed to see straight through to the bone. Sage screamed, "That cat has no right to this family's estate." "I agree," yelled Harold, while Dylan seemed to be paralyzed in his chair. "She has more right to the family's estate than you do, because she helped Mallory build it." "You did not," Harold replied calmly, but there was something in his tone that stopped Sage's yelling. She sank into her seat. Warren stopped also and sat down again. From her office, Hannah had heard the commotion and she came back silently and took a look through the crack on the door. The family was angry and Harold was barely in control of the situation. She pitied him. She had worked for him for 8 years now and she knew him well. He was following the letter of the law, honoring Mallory's wishes while still trying to protect Maren, a very difficult balance. She searched the room and her eyes fixed on Maren. Her eyes flashed. It was as if she was silently saying, "I will not stay with any of them, not for all the tuna in the world." Mama used to say that money doesn't change people. It reveals what people are really like. There is no going back now. My decision is final. I'm leaving. Hannah shuddered. She wanted to interrupt and shout, "Look at Maren, all of you, look at Maren." But she left and went back to her office. This is not going to end well, she thought helplessly. Maren is smart and she's angry. She remembered their bickering right after the funeral, always about money, with Dylan always pulling them apart, always struggling to bring peace. She remembered that her boss didn't say a word to them. He didn't offer a handshake or a sorry for your loss. He simply reached down, scooped up Maren and her red satin pillow, and walked toward his navy blue sedan. He looked like a man protecting the only precious thing left in the desert. She struggled to concentrate on her computer. In Harold's office, Maren stared at the family, her mind clicking, calculating. They should all be actors. Actually, scratch that. They're terrible at this. I can see the greed in their eyes. It's embarrassing, really. Her green eyes had the gleam of a cat that is seriously thinking. "Maren, girl, you know what's hilarious? They think this is working. They think a couple of days of treats and chin scratches will make you forget years of neglect. Warren would like to be my guardian. The man who fed me budget kibble yesterday while he drives a BMW. Sage wants custody. She locked me in the bathroom to make personal phone calls and to send selfies. Dylan is sweet, I'll give him that. But the other two, please. I'd rather live in an alley. And maybe I will. I won't live with the woman who wrote my mama letters that made her cry or with the man who ignored her calls when she was in trouble." Something dangerous shone in her eyes, and as Warren and Sage bickered and Dylan tried to calm them, and Harold tried to restore order so he could continue reading the will, Maren jumped out from her red satin cushion and simply disappeared through the half-open door. At that moment, Harold said, raising his voice above the family's words, "May I continue? We are not done yet." Grudgingly, they settled down. He continued in a professional tone. "I want to add this clause because I am not without compassion or family affection. If any of my family members can gain Maren's trust and love and can prove that they would love her and take good care of her for the rest of her feline life." He paused for a moment, looking at all of them, and then continued, "I will allow that person or all of them, if, as a family, they prove worthy to care for my beloved Maren and have administrative access to my money. With Harold Parker acting as a conservator, arrangements will be made with the court to appoint him as per my last wishes. He already has power of attorney. Harold will oversee the management of my finances and property so that they will not get squandered. He will protect my assets from mismanagement and protect Maren from exploitation. Even though I have left none of my money directly to my family, I repeat, I am not without mercy. I am willing to be generous. If any of my family members can gain Maren's trust and love, and can prove that they would cherish her and care for her properly for the rest of her natural life." He paused, letting the words sink in. Sage leaned forward. Warren's hands gripped the armrests of his chair. Dylan had gone very still. "I will allow that person, or all of them together, should they prove worthy as a family, to become Maren's caretakers. They will have administrative access to my estate, with Harold Parker acting as conservator of said estate." Administrative access, Warren's voice was suddenly calculating. Meaning, Harold said carefully, That arrangements will be made with the court to appoint me as conservator, as per Mrs. Lloyd's last wishes. I will oversee the management of her finances and property to ensure they are not squandered. I will protect the assets from mismanagement and protect Maren from exploitation. So we'd have access to the money? Sage asked, her voice now honey-sweet, conciliatory. In a manner of speaking, although under legal supervision. Harold returned to the document. The conservator will pay all bills, ensure Maren receives regular veterinary care and all the comforts she enjoys. He will manage investments, protect assets, and handle all legal and business matters related to the estate, reporting to the court on a regular basis. And we just take care of a cat, Dylan spoke again, his voice thick with skepticism. Harold met his eyes. The family member or members who become Maren's caregivers, providing her with love and a proper home, will be compensated from the estate to the amount of $1 million per year. The air went out of the room. $1 million per year for cat sitting. I will ensure that whoever Maren chooses meets her needs, while I safeguard her inheritance. Wait, whoever she chooses. Sage's voice climbed an octave. Mrs. Lloyd was very specific on this point. Harold's finger traced down the page. Maren must be given the freedom to choose. On the day that Maren dies of old age and natural causes, and the will stipulates clearly that it must be of natural causes, the remainder of the inheritance will go automatically to her caregiver or caregivers, provided that Harold Parker and the judge assigned to oversee the conservatorship deem them deserving. One more thing, Maren must not be removed from the state of Arizona. She can travel with permission of the court, but she cannot be moved to another state. I must have access to her as conservator. He looked up, his gaze moving from Warren to Sage to Dylan. It all depends on who Maren chooses. She is very smart, perceptive, and sensitive. I trust her completely. The silence that followed was profound. Then Warren laughed, a short, bitter bark. This is ridiculous, a cat can't. The will is legal and binding, Harold said. Mrs. Lloyd was of sound mind when she drafted it. I was present. So was her doctor and another witness. If you choose to contest it, you'll spend a fortune on legal fees only to fail. There is only one way for any of you to receive anything from this estate. He motioned without looking at the leather chair, at the majestic creature who lay there with such regal stillness. Maren. In that instant, everything changed. The cat they had ignored at the funeral, the animal they'd stepped over and dismissed, the cat they had just given ceremonial attention because they thought they had to notice her, even if it was a little, had just become the most important creature in their world. She was no longer just a spoiled pet. She was $50 million. She was the funds for their plans, the way out of mounting debts, the fulfillment of their desperate dreams. She was solutions, wrapped in fur. Warren turned to the chair, his voice suddenly warm, almost tremulous. Maren, sweetheart. Sage was already moving, her hands outstretched, her voice dripping sweetness. Come here, beautiful girl. But the leather chair was empty. The red satin pillow sat undisturbed, still holding the impression of her body. Maren was gone. All of them were in shock, including Harold. Dylan stood slowly and stared at the empty chair. His mother was hysterical. His Uncle Warren looked angry and confused. Maren. Where Dylan stood, scanning the room. The door was only partially closed. Harold rose from his chair. Where did she? We have to find her. Sage shrieked, bolting for the door. She couldn't have gone far. Warren was right behind her. Dylan moved more slowly, but even he was heading for the exit, eyes searching. Harold Parker remained in his office as the three of them thundered down the hallway, already calling for the cat, their voices overlapping in desperate, honeyed tones that would have made Maren laugh. If she would have had a human voice. It was going to be the best day of their lives, until this happened. Harold picked up his phone and called his wife Claire. She's gone, Claire panicked. The tension did it, Harold answered. That beautiful cat has grown up between satin and velvet. She's no match for alley cats or coyotes. I have to find her before they do. Oh, Harry, Claire wailed. Should we report her missing? Give me some time, he answered. If I run out of options and can't find her, then I'll report her missing. he said. Oh, Harry, Claire worried. I don't want animal control to get her. What if she ends up in the pound and someone adopts her? She's a gorgeous cat. Won't that complicate the inheritance? Maren is smart. She won't let herself get caught, Harold reassured her, but he already had the beginning of a tension headache. Harold Parker felt a sinking feeling that things were going to get worse, a whole lot worse. He had left the door of his office partially open, and when the family walked in, they didn't close it. That gave Maren a way out. This was the family's first failure. They couldn't even keep track of a cat for 10 minutes. It also showed Maren's intelligence. She seized the moment of utter chaos and escaped. The stakes were high. Now they had to find her before they could even begin to win her over. He pushed down the knot that had formed in his stomach and walked out of his office. Where would Maren go? Harold, think logically, he told himself. The ranch, her home. He went home and left his sedan in the garage and got into his truck. Maren didn't just run, she bolted. As the family scrambled through town in a panicked search, Harold Parker followed a different instinct. He knew Maren. He knew her haunts. He drove toward the ranch, but as the dust kicked up from the road, he saw it, a truck belonging to Greg Stone, Mallory's gardener. Harold killed the engine, watching from a distance. Stone wasn't alone. A short, blonde girl hopped from the passenger side, lugging a heavy, wire animal trap. She set it in the dirt with a metallic clank and swung the door open. Then a flash of white. Maren. Harold's hands gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. He was too far to reach them. He was a witness to a kidnapping in progress, a ransom plot unfolding in the heat of the late afternoon. Helplessly, Harold watched, his hands now balling into fists on top of the steering wheel. He was too far to intervene and stop them. They were going to trap Maren, possibly to hold her for ransom, but Maren was smart. She looked at them, then at the cage. She approached cautiously, whipping her tail, showing tension. Bad sign coming from a cat, Harold thought. She moved closer. The girl crouched, her voice dripping with a syrupy, false sweetness as she cooed into the brush. Maren emerged, cautious and low to the ground. Her tail whipped violently from side to side, a rhythmic warning. Grab her now, the girl hissed. Stone lunged, but Maren was a blur of survival. Her teeth sank deep into his hand, and Harold watched as crimson blood sprayed onto the dry earth. The girl threw herself forward to pin the cat, but Maren turned into a whirlwind of claws. She shredded the girl's legs with surgical precision, leaving her screaming in the dirt as Maren vanished into the shimmering heat of the desert. You stupid cat, the girl shrieked, clutching her bleeding legs. Harold recognized her now, a tech from the vet's office where Mallory used to take Maren. You're gonna die out there. Just wait until the coyotes find you. The threat hung in the air. The pair retreated, bloodied and defeated, leaving the desert silent once more. But Harold knew the girl was right. Maren was alone, vulnerable, and the sun was setting. He reached for his phone, dialing the one person in Mallory's family he trusted, her grandson, Dylan. Listen to me carefully, Harold commanded. Get to the empty lot 2 blocks from my office in Tempe, take water, take cat food, and wait. Why? Dylan asked. It's for Maren, Harold replied. We need to save her from the coyotes. On my way, Dylan said, and hung up. Only then did Harold start his engine. There was one more thing he needed to do. He drove to his office. He owned the 1-story building where it was located in downtown Tempe. It was a simple structure with a sign on the right side of the door. It was painted in the color of stucco, and the door was dark brown. The sign simply said, Harold Parker, attorney at law. Below the building was a big basement with 3 windows facing the street, just below the street level, but they could still be reached by a small creature like Maren. He inserted the key into the lock, walked in, went to the basement, opened one of the windows, just enough for a cat to slip in, placed Maren's beloved satin cushion on the floor, and left. He hoped that she would come and hide there from danger. All he could do was hope. It was all up to Maren now. All they could do was wait and hope that her survival instincts would lead her to accept the help being offered. He went home with a heavy heart. In the meantime, Warren had created a missing poster of Maren and was spreading it all over town. while Sage had gone to a small, local station and had made a tearful appeal for help in Maren's return. They had also made social media live posts. All of this, in their opinion, intended to help find Maren, but would have the opposite result, as people, seeking a reward, would get in the way. Cats are liquid. They can slip through impossibly small spaces. Maren could be hiding anywhere, or confused and alone. After Stone and that vet tech tried to kidnap her, she could be in terrible danger. Harold called Claire and told her what had happened and how he had deployed Dylan to the empty lot, in the hope that Maren would approach him because of hunger and thirst, and how he had opened a window in his office on purpose for her to hide there. "I have done what I could, Claire," he told his wife as he drove home. "It's up to Maren now." The next morning after the vanishing, the family, still in disarray, started taking matters into their own hands in very personal and distinct ways. Harold Parker's office felt less like a law firm and more like a high-stakes cat-sitting competition. Sage arrived with a designer cat carrier, Warren with a custom-built, yet small cat tree, and Dylan. Well, Dylan had a book about cats. "Has anyone had any luck locating Maren?" Harold asked. Sage answered, "I believe Maren is discerning. She's used to elegant things. So I got her this special carrier and had it lined with soft imitation mink. It's extremely chic and comfortable. I've asked your wife to let me place it in your front yard with a trail of imported salmon caviar leading right to it." "Caviar, please," Warren said. "That's for common cats. Maren is an empire builder. She needs a throne. This is a 3-foot, compact, multi-tiered cat condominium with a built-in scratching post and a water fountain. It has a motion-activated laser pointer. I will place it in your driveway. She'll be drawn to its status." I brought this book," Dylan said softly, "Understanding Feline Behavior. And I've read here that if I put out a simple bowl of water and some of her favorite food near the shade, in a place accessible to her, eventually she will come. I think maybe she'll appreciate a quiet space. No pressure." Sage scoffed. "A book? Dylan, this is a $50 million cat, not a college project. Have you been wasting your time in veterinary school?" "Leave him, Sage. He's just playing in his sandbox. We're talking real money here." None of them realized that Maren had been in the basement all night and had silently come down the hall. She looked at all of them. She listened. Her mind clicked. A mink-lined carrier. Does she think I'm a purse? And a cat condo with a laser. Does he think I'm a kitten? They still haven't learned. Only the little vet understands. A cat chooses its own throne. Then she turned around and vanished again. Another day of worry passed. The second day since she disappeared. Harold tried to work. Claire tried to concentrate too. She was a teacher and could barely stand to be at work when Maren was out there, exposed to who knows what danger. He got home and collapsed onto the sofa in the living room. When he checked his phone, there were 12 messages from a hysterical Sage and 10 from Warren. They had been all over town, but had not found Maren. Harold decided not to tell them anything yet. He feared they would get in the way. In the morning, Dylan reported that he had waited for hours at the empty lot, but Maren never showed up. He asked Harold to come and open his office. He had an idea. He wanted to place the water and the food in the basement, right by Maren's favorite pillow. Maybe she would come, eat, drink, and sleep there in safety. He suggested that Harold stop at a store and buy a litter box and a bag of litter to offer Maren more comfort. He then drove to the office, and Harold showed up with the litter box Maren was using at his house, clean and with fresh litter. They prepared a place for her with all she needed. He smoothed the red satin pillow to make sure they knew if she had slept there or not. Then they left, full of hope that the terrified little princess would come. In the morning, they both rushed to see if Maren had come. Claire came also. Hannah joined them in the basement. The food, the water, and the pillow were untouched. Maren had not come. She spent the night in the desert, Claire whispered in horror. Hannah placed one hand on her mouth. Dylan looked worried, so was Harold. "I have to go back to the lot," Dylan said. "I'll take fresh food and water and I will talk to her, gently, promising her safety, just in case she's hiding behind the cactus, watching and listening to me." "Stay in touch," Harold requested. The young man nodded and picked up the dishes. He washed them and took them with him. She likes tuna, Claire had said, so he filled the food dish with tuna and the water. He positioning himself in the lot, not caring about the sun and the heat. They were sick with worry. What if something terrible had happened to Maren in the night, when the wild animals came out? Hunting, they didn't know she had been coming to the basement. Not for the entire night and not to lie down on the satin pillow. But she had been coming because she was scared and because she trusted Harold Parker. Still, for some reason, she made sure they didn't know she had been there. The fourth night brought a moon like a sliver of bone. Maren watched from the jagged silhouette of a dumpster, her body a map of exhaustion. Her ribs ached, and her throat felt like it was lined with desert sand. 2 blocks away, the boy, Dylan, was finally gone. But he had left the scent of safety behind, fresh water and the savory richness of food. It was a simple meal, but Maren decided not to be choosy. She moved silently, belly low to the dirt, pausing at every snap of a dry twig. She reached the bowls. She drank until her heart stopped racing, then ate with a desperate, frantic speed. But the lot was too open. The coyotes were singing in the distance, a high, haunting yip-yip howl that made the fur on her neck stand rigid. Her instincts caused her to leave before she could finish her meal. Scared and exhausted, she turned toward the brick building that housed Harold Parker's office. Then she saw it, the dark mouth of the basement window. To her relief, it was still open. Maren didn't hesitate. She leapt, her claws catching the ledge, and poured herself through the gap. She landed on the cool concrete floor. It smelled of dust, old wood, and faintly Harold's peppermint tea. It was a fortress. She crawled behind a stack of crates, curled into a tight ball, and let the darkness swallow her whole. For the first time in days, the white flash went out. After their failure with the elegant carrier and the cat condo, Sage and Warren went back to square one. Then both of them started offering a reward and began getting tips of Maren sightings. Leads that supposedly would direct them to her whereabouts. They had been busy following those tips. One of them took Sage to a particular alley about 5 miles from the lot where Dylan sat alone. Instead of running around, Dylan was patiently waiting at the empty lot, waiting for Maren to get comfortable and approach him and the food and water he had been offering on her own terms. Dylan had found signs that Maren, or another animal, was drinking water and eating tuna from the bowls he had left. He felt encouraged and decided to stick to the plan. He would spend one more day at the lot and see if Maren would finally come. Harold had also given him good news. She had visited the office basement, so she was getting closer. All they needed to do was to be patient and wait. While Dylan sat on the empty lot, Sage followed a tip she was certain would lead her to Maren. Supposedly, Maren had been living in a particular alley and was being fed cream by baristas that worked at a shop nearby. As Sage entered the alley, she heard hissing and mewing. There definitely was a cat in there, but it was late in the afternoon and it was getting dark. "Maren, honey, come to Auntie Sage," she cooed, looking between trash cans that smelled so bad they made her stomach turn. "Maren, honey, are you here?" Sage saw something white behind a can and dove to grab it, falling to the ground as she clutched it. The white thing turned out to be a plastic bag full of trash. Then she saw some cat eyes watching her. "Maren," the cat hissed in a dangerous way. She got up slowly and said softly, "I'm leaving, no harm done, I'm going." She had lost one of her shoes, but she backed away without being attacked. She heard a noise between the trash cans, and she ran out of the alley, gasping for air. With one shoe missing and smelling horribly of trash and filth, she headed for the motel. Across town, Warren was facing a worse situation than Sage had. He had been led to the parking lot of the public library by his contact, where he had been promised solid information about Maren. He got out of this car, locked it, and looked around for his contact. He was in the parking lot of the public library. Before he could walk toward the library building, someone grabbed him around the neck from behind and started choking him. "Where's the money?" The man choking him hissed. "I don't have any money with me," Warren barely said. "I came for information about the cat, about Maren." The pressure around his neck tightened. Warren could barely breathe. "Where's your wallet? Give me your money," the attacker ordered. "I don't have it, it's in my car." Warren barely said in a choking voice. Right then, a short, slim, middle-aged lady who had gotten out of an SUV nearby with an umbrella spotted the mugging and came straight at the man choking Warren from behind and started hitting him and poking him mercilessly with the umbrella. "Let him go, you punk," she bellowed. "Or I'll turn you into mashed potatoes with this umbrella. I wasn't in the army for 25 years for nothing." The man let go of Warren, hurled him against the parking lot, and ran. Warren's head hit the hard ground and he felt dizzy. "Are you okay?" the short lady asked gently. Warren touched his bleeding, aching forehead. "I think I am," he said, touching his burning throat. "Thank you so much," he told her. She smiled. "I was a soldier for many years," she replied. "I can't watch abuse and remain indifferent." She helped him up. He couldn't believe that a little lady brandishing the point of an umbrella had saved him. Embarrassed, but thanking the lady profusely, he made his retreat, headed for the emergency room to tend to his wounds. While Sage was at the motel washing off the smell of garbage from that alley, and Warren was at the ER having his wounded head bandaged, Dylan sat quietly on the ground of the empty lot, reading his book on cats and sometimes pausing to talk to Maren, just in case she was nearby and could hear him. Eventually, after spending hours on the empty lot under a beating sun, reading his book on cats, sometimes talking to an imaginary Maren, and sipping from a bottle of mineral water, Dylan left and went back to his motel room. She watched him. She listened. She ignored him. Maren had been avoiding humans, avoiding capture ever since the kidnapping attempt at the ranch. In her present state of mind, she trusted no one. Hid behind cactus and creosote bushes, she waited until the little vet, Dylan, was finally gone. He was patient, she would give him that, and seemed to be a gentle soul, which reminded her of her mama. He had been out here for days, trying to get close to her. She wasn't sure she wanted to have humans in her life right now, including the little vet. But once more, he had left the scent of safety behind, fresh water and food. Tuna, her favorite. It was a simple meal, but Maren decided she could not be picky. She moved silently, belly low to the dirt, soiling her beautiful fur with desert sand, pausing at every snap of a dry twig, freezing at every moving shadow, her ears moving, listening for still faraway dangers. She reached the bowls. She drank desperately, quenching the thirst that was constantly with her now. Then she ate as quickly as she could, barely enough to sustain her but not enough to satisfy her hunger. She looked around. The open lot made her nervous. The coyotes were singing in the distance, in that high, haunting yip-yip howl that filled her with fear. Her instincts caused her to leave before she could finish her meal. She turned again toward the brick building that housed Harold Parker's office. Once again, the basement window was open, a refuge, safety. She didn't wait nor hesitate, but pushed herself through the opening into the dark basement. Before dawn, Maren left and vanished again into the desert.